All right, so now let's jump into 4.6, which gets into exponents, order of operations, and complex fractions. So now the nice thing about the exponents is that we can apply the same process to simplify those as we did for the integers. So if we have something like 3/4 raised to the third power, remember that means you're multiplying that number, whatever it is, times itself that many times. So we got 3/4 times 3/4 times 3/4. And since we can't cross cancel anything, we can multiply straight across on the top and the bottom, and we get 27 over 64. That's the quick and easy way to do it. So we're going to use that where we need to. As far as the other rules, same thing as before. So remember, PEMDAS is the way to help you remember it, but be careful about that left to right stuff. So we'll see some of that in action as we go. All right, so let's take a look at the first one. So we got 1/2 plus 2/3, and then remember this is just going to be multiplied by -1/4. So what do we do first? Well, it's very, very tempting to want to add these two fractions, but they're not in parentheses. So if they're not in parentheses, that means multiplication would have to come before the addition does. So we got to do this first. All right, so we got 1/2. And now we can do a little cross canceling with multiplication. So let's cancel out the 2 and the 4. So that drops those down. So we got 1 times a -1. So we are going to get a negative answer. So -1 over 6, or 2 times 3 times 2 is 6. Yes, we'll get those out. And now we will need an LCD because we're adding. So LCD between 2 and 6, yeah, that one's quick. 6, right? So let's change our denominators to 6's. And our second one was already a 6, so we don't need to do anything to it. But the first fraction, we're going to make sure we change the tops. So that will become a 3. And now 3 plus a -1. 3 plus a -1 is 2. And then we can reduce that down to 1/3. So not terrible, but you got to be careful. All right, what about this next one? So we got a division in parentheses, and we have an exponent, and we got this plus that separates it all. So what do you want to do first? Hopefully you're screaming parentheses, so we do have to do that first. But can we do something else at the same time? The answer is yes, because this exponent is all by itself, separated by this plus sign. So we can do both of these at the same time. So we got 9 over 20, and it's because it's divided by, we got to change that to an improper fraction. So that's going to be 10 plus 2 is 12 over 5. And if we expand this out, just to be safe, we got 3/4 times 3/4. Okay, so far so good. So we got 9 over 20 times 5/12 plus, and we can multiply that now. Now, if you could go from here straight to here, obviously that's fine. It's probably better if you do, but if you're not sure, again, just expand it out and then multiply it. All right, so what about this multiplication? We got a little bit of cross cancel we can do on both of those. So the 9 and the 12 have a common factor of 3. So if we divide 3 out of 9, divide the 3 out of the 12, and then we got the 5 and the 20 we can cancel out. 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 24 times. So the biggest thing about when you do these cancelings is make sure you know what you have left. It's hard, it's easy to get lost with it. So in the top we got the 3 and we got the 1. So that's going to give you a 3. 4 times the 4 is 16. But look at that. They're both the same denominator. We like that. So let's say we're going to get 12 over 16. Now we're done. Well, we can reduce this. 4 goes into both of those. So it looks like we end up with a 3/4. All right. Well, let's try the next one. Next one's got parentheses, so we know we're going to have to tackle those. But what about this -3/8 plus 2/3? We want to combine that too, right? No, it's not in parentheses, so we don't combine it. This 2/3 is attached to these parentheses by multiplication, so we got to wait and see what's going to happen in here, and then we can multiply. Okay, so -3/8 plus 2/3 times, well, we're adding. Adding means we need an LCD. So 3 and 6, that one's quick. 6 is going to be it. So our second fraction's good. So our first fraction is going to change to a negative what? -4/6 is great. So bring all this other stuff down. So now we got a -4 plus the 1. -4 plus 1. Better be a -3, right? -3/6. Now remember, the negative can be put up into the top or it could be put in front of the fraction bar. It's the same thing. It doesn't hurt one way or the other. You could even put it in the bottom and it doesn't matter. But it's only in one of those 3 spots. Okay, so now what about this? We know we got to multiply. But we can do a little bit of cross canceling though. So the 3's, we can cancel those out. And the 2 and the 6, we can cancel those. So we got a -3/8 plus, now you got a positive fraction times a negative one. So we know the answer is going to be negative. So negative what? What over what? What's left? So all we've got left are 1's on the top. And on the bottom, we got a 1 and a 3. So looks like we just get a third, -1/3. All right, so now what? We got to do LCDs again. So we're adding 2 fractions with different denominators. 8 and 3. Looks like that might be a 24. So we got negative something over 24 plus a negative something over 24. So what's our new tops going to be? Well, this one gets multiplied by 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. This one gets multiplied by 8. So 1 times 8 is 8. So -9/24 plus a -8/24. What's that going to equal? Signs are the same. They're both negative. And we're adding. So that means we add the numbers and keep the sign. So -17/24. All right. One more and then we'll pause. So we got a bunch of stuff going on. We got some parentheses where there's something to do inside. We got an exponent. We got a subtraction and we got another multiplication. So we can do a few things in this one though. So we can do the exponent because it doesn't interfere with anything. We definitely got to do the parentheses. And we can also do this multiplication because it's separated by that subtraction sign. So all 3 of those we can do at the same time. So -2/3 to the 3rd power. Can we do that without expanding it? So there's 3 negative fractions. So the sign of the answer better be negative. There's 3 of them. So 2 of them paired up, and there's 1 left over. So the answer is going to have to be a negative. But now we got 2 to the third. So we got 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. And 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. So that's the first fraction. Now the second one, well, we're subtracting. We like to do that using improper fractions. So let's change it to 9 over 8. 1 times 8 is 8 plus 1 is 9. Minus the 1/2. But if we're subtracting, we want an LCD. So let's see if we can change that at the same time. So in this case, the LCD has to be 8. So we can put this over 8. So now we got to multiply it by 4. So the top gets multiplied by 4. I'm trying to combine a lot of steps. So if you're, if you got to stop and rewind, stop and rewind. But so we changed it to improper, changed to get an LCD, and changed the top so that way it's adjusted appropriately. So we'll take care of that in the next step. And now, what about 2/3 times 1/8? Can we simplify that a little bit? Sure. The 2 and the 8 cancel out, so we got a 1 and a 4. So it looks like we get a minus. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, almost there. We got this subtraction we got to still finish up. So 9 minus the 4 is 5/8. And so now we can tackle this multiplication. Well, this one's kind of nice because we got some 8s that we can just cancel out completely. So it looks like we're going to end up with a negative, because one of them is negative, one is positive, negative 5 over 27 minus 1 over 12. Ooh. Subtracting those fractions, and we need an LCD. Ooh. Well, no fancy way to do it, remember. I would just take multiples of 27 until you find one that 12 divides evenly into. It turns out that 108 is going to work. Both of those will divide into 108. So remember, just take multiples of 1 until you get the other one to go in. So 12 doesn't go into 27, next multiple is 54. 12 doesn't go into 54, so the next multiple is 81. 12 doesn't go into 81, so the next multiple is, ding, 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 108. So that's going to be your denominator. So now we got to multiply the top by the appropriate number. So 27 times 4 is 108. So we got to multiply the 5 times 4, which is 20. 12 times 9 is 108. So we got to multiply this one by 9. Okay, so negative 20 minus 9. Make sure you add or subtract correctly. We are going to add those, so that will be a negative 29 over 108. Phew. All right, go take a break and then come back for the rest of this video. We'll see you soon.